No.
Okay. I don't have a supervisor's report, and we have a proclamation to read, but I think we'll read that at the end in case.
Well, I think they wanted us to do it in the beginning so they could go to the party.
She's not here.
No?
Yes.
Might make that connection.
Okay,
We can do it in abstention.
Yeah.
you read it?
No, I'm kidding. I would give it a,
It
yeah,
wouldn't see
we can work it in if,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Brown shows up.
yes.
Sounds good.
Okay, the town clerk is not feeling well. She's on Zoom. Amber, do you have any correspondence for us?
Yes, we received a letter from DB Bennett Engineering regarding the wastewater treatment and Bennett and Reed regarding the moratorium.
Thank
And
you.
that is all.
Okay, we'll start with the, oh, wait, if anybody wants to speak to any of the resolutions that we're approving before the town board hearings, now is the time to do it. We have appointments, we have commercial activity, we have, amendment to the members of the comprehensive plan, approval of the agreement with the town and Cornell Cooperative Extension, and a few others. Anybody want to speak? All right, want to start us off, Meg?
Whereas the term of Elizabeth Hanley of the Community Housing Board expired on February 2nd, 2023, now therefore be it resolved that Elizabeth Hanley is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Community Housing Board for a term to expire on February 9th, 2028. So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Gordon Gooding, the Community Preservation Advisory Committee expired on February 2nd, 2023. Now therefore, be resolved that Gordon Gooding is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Community Preservation Advisory Committee for a term to expire on February 2nd, 2026. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Marcus Cassock of the Planning Board expired on December 31st, 2022. Now therefore be it resolved that Marcus Cassock is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Planning Board for a term to expire on December 31st, 2027. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Peter Grand as a member of the Water Advisory Committee expired on April 2nd, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that Peter Grand is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2nd, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Greg Toner as member of the Water Advisory Committee expired on April 2, 2023. Now therefore, be it resolved that Greg Toner is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Ken Fisher as a member of the Water Advisory Committee expired on April 2nd, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that Ken Fisher is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2nd, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the term of Andrew Chapman as a member of the Water Advisory Committee expired on April 2nd, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that Andrew Chapman is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2nd, 2025. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Doug Sherrod as a member of the Water Advisory Committee expired on April 2nd, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that Doug Sherrod is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2nd, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Lisa Shaw as a member of the Water Advisory Committee expired on April 2nd, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that Lisa Shaw is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Advisory Committee for a term to expire on April 2nd, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I was just noticing the wording here. Elizabeth Bishop is being reappointed to the WQI, Amber? Okay. All right, I just want to make this change here, a little typo. Whereas the term of Elizabeth Bishop as a member of the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board expired on April 2, 2023, now therefore be it resolved that Elizabeth Bishop is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board for a term to expire on April 2, 2028. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the term of Greg Toner as a member of the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board expired on February 2nd, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved, Greg Toner is hereby reappointed to serve as a member of the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board for a term to expire February 2nd, 2028. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas Kim Riley has met the civil service requirements for office assistant, now therefore be it resolved that Kim Riley is hereby appointed as office assistant with a probationary period of 26 weeks. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that Jared Hamilton is hereby appointed to serve as detention attendant for the year 2023. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Be it resolved that Jared Hamilton is hereby appointed to serve as traffic control officer for the year of 2023. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. How many Jareds do we have? Be it resolved that Michelle Donahue is hereby appointed as part-time cook for the nutrition program for the year 2023. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas pursuant to Section 30LH of the Public Officers Law, a town officer must sign and file a constitutional oath of office within 30 days after the term of office begins. And whereas Matthew Williamson was appointed to serve as a member of the Waterways Management Advisory Council, and whereas Mr. Williamson has not yet signed and filed said constitutional oath of office, and whereas the town board desires to have the aforementioned person to serve the town of Shelter Island in the designated capacity, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby appoints Matthew Williamson to the Waterways Management Advisory Council for a term to expire on February 1st, 2026. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Whereas the Shelter Island Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary has requested permission to hold their annual East egg hunt. I guess that's
Easter egg.
Easter egg hunt on the corner of Cartwright Road and Burns Road on the property known as St. Gabriel's Meadow on Saturday, April 8th, 2023 at 11 a.m. until 3 p.m. with Sunday, April 9th, 2023 as a rain day. Now therefore be it resolved that Shelter Island Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary request is hereby approved. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas the town board established a comprehensive plan advisory committee consisting of 12 members, and whereas said committee is hereby reduced to 9 members, now therefore be it resolved that effective immediately, membership of the comprehensive plan advisory committee is hereby set at 9 members. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program appeared in front of the Water Quality Improvement Advisory Board, WQI, to make an application for funding for the costs associated with the shellfish and habitat restoration in support of water quality improvement. And whereas the WQI has recommended approval of such funding, and whereas the proposed cost is $200,000, and whereas a public hearing was held March 14th, 2023 for any to be heard in favor of or in opposition, now therefore be it resolved that said proposal is hereby approved, subject to the agreement executed between Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program and the town of Shelter Island. So moved.
Second, I'd like to do a roll call. Councilwoman Hodgson?
Aye.
Councilman Callaghan?
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
No. So 3-1-1, passed.
Whereas Serena Dugan, 37 Tut Hill Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring at a location designated as latitude 41.073617 north and longitude 72.285644 west. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to section 90-5 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, a public hearing will be held at 6:10 p.m. prevailing time on the 25th day of April, 2023, in the Shelter Island Town Hall, Shelter Island, New York, for all interested parties to be heard in favor of or in opposition to this proposed installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 at 6:12 p.m. prevailing time to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled, "A Local Law Adding a New Chapter 106 entitled Rights of Way to Prohibit Certain Obstructions into a Public Right-of-Way," of which provides as follows.
Just the legislative intent.
Yeah, so section 1, the legislative intent. The town board finds that dangerous conditions exist when certain obstructions such as hedges and other vegetation encroach from private property into a right-of-way or placed within so as to significantly limit sight lines and access to road shoulders. Islanders and guests generally are active and enjoy walking, running, biking on some on our sometimes narrow and winding roads. And in order to protect their health, safety, and welfare, the rights of way need to be free and clear from obstructions in order to afford unimpeded sight lines and areas on the road shoulders to avoid oncoming vehicular traffic. It is the intent of this local law to protect those persons traveling on a road, whether vehicularly, by bike, or by foot, from the risk of injury that may reasonably be anticipated from reduced visibility and lack of a shoulder caused by overgrown vegetation. The copy of the proposed local law itself is available on the website and at the town clerk's office. So if anybody would like to see that, it's available. Getting to that bit. So the summary of this law is that the purpose of this law is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of those who traverse Shelter Island roads by prohibiting obstructions within the shoulders thereof. It also allows the town to remove such obstructions if the property owners adjoining the same fail to do so. So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs a public hearing shall be held on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, at 6:14 PM prevailing time, for any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled, a local law amending Chapter 105 entitled Rental of Real Property to eliminate owner-occupied premises from being permitted as vacation rentals, of which provides as follows. I'm going to read the legislative intent. The town board has a duty to ensure that all rental dwellings units within the town of Shelter Island are safe for its inhabitants, and such has determined that the safety inspections performed by either a licensed professional or the building department are to be required prior to any use of same. Further, the town board finds that the lack of community housing opportunities impacts the ability for Shelter Island residents to secure necessary services. As such, the town board has determined that the owner-occupied premises, also known as accessory apartments, shall only be used as year-round rentals, as already required in the zoning code, and not for transient rentals of 14 days or less. Goes on to explain that over the next 4 pages, excuse me, and I will get to the summary of the proposed law. One purpose of this amendment is to try to ensure that every rental dwelling unit within the town provides a safe environment for the residents thereof. Additionally, it seeks to compel reversion back to the current requirement of zoning code that accessory apartments or accessory dwelling units be solely used for year-round occupancy, and remove this administrative exception in order to put such dwelling units back into the residential year-round occupancy rental pool in order to provide more community housing opportunities. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Shelter Island hereby directs that a public hearing shall be held on Tuesday, April 25th, 2023, at 6:14 PM prevailing time, to hear any and all persons either for or against the local law entitled, a local law to impose a 12-month moratorium on the processing and approval of special permits by the town board in connection with applicants for one-family dwellings and accessory structures with a square foot living area of greater than 5,999 square feet. The intent of the law, the town board finds that there is an increase in the number of requests for the construction of dwellings and accessory structures, additions thereto, that are larger than what is permitted as of right. Consequently, the town board has determined that there must be an immediate suspension of the acceptance and review of all new and pending special permit applications for dwelling units and accessory structures with a square foot living area larger than 5,999 square feet, until the town board can properly and comprehensively evaluate the potential impacts of granting such special permits on community character, the environment, and the aquifer. The town board is currently in the midst of updating the town's comprehensive plan, and sound planning principles require that maintaining the status quo to afford the appropriate time necessary to enact any resultant amendments to the zoning code. Summary of the law. The purpose of this law is to temporarily suspend the acceptance and processing of special permit applications for larger homes with a square foot living area that exceeds 5,999 square feet. So the comprehensive plan is updated so as to ensure that such homes are currently in keeping with the community character, do not create excessive environmental harm. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the following funds are hereby encumbered from 2022 to be expended in 2023 with the 2022 funds to wit, $154 from the A3120.487 PD uniform allowance account to the A3120.487 PD uniform allowance account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved that the following budget transfers hereby approved. 59,000 from contingency to the A1440.497 engineering professional services account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to credit the sum of $95.77 from Shelter Island IGA LLC to the general fund account. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Be it resolved, the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to submit the payment of $67.45 from the A1220.491 account to the Car Business Systems for the billing period of 3/7-23 through 4/6-23. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this time we're gonna recess the town board meeting and open a public hearing on a proposed local law entitled the local law amending chapter 109 entitled shellfish. Amber, could you read the notice?
Yes, on a proposed local law entitled a local law amending chapter 108 entitled shellfish to create commercial shellfish permit, remove the prohibition on returning starfish and whelks, create shellfish permit review board, and to increase penalties.
Okay, we heard from the Bayman that they would like to adjourn this so they can get together and go over it a little more comprehensively, so I think we're gonna adjourn this one.
Right. And here.
We will we'll adjourn that hearing, open the hearing on. Make a motion. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the next is a public hearing on a proposed local law entitled, local law amending chapter 126 entitled vehicles and traffic. Amber?
On a proposed local law entitled a local law amending chapter 126 entitled vehicles and traffic to add new parking restrictions for the intersections of North Ferry Road and Manwaring Road, West Neck Road, and New York Avenue for a certain area of South Ram Island Road.
Okay, this, we asked the police chief and the highway superintendent to look at any problem areas we need addressed, and these were the ones they identified for no parking in the corners. We spoke about it at a work session. Is there any comments from the public on this one?
This really gives better line of sight at the four-way stops. You know, it really does improve. It's a safety thing strictly.
Pam Demarest?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Supervisor, I just have a question of where is this Verizon pole on South Rim Island Drive? Because that's the only part of something that he wants to keep clear. Is that right on the corner at the top of the hill? Is your?
It's on the, yeah, it's on the curve,
South of the land.
just past the Rams Head parking lot, that whole curve there. Chief, you want to describe it or you want to share? it?
No, I think I understand. So that's actually on the Eklund property across the street then from the Ramshead Inn there.
I think it's past the Eklund property.
Well, Chief, why don't you, I think you have something to
Yeah, if I
share.
can share a screen, I'll show Pam and give her a feel for where it is.
Yeah, I just wondered. I
Yep,
mean,
no
obviously it's a
problem.
new parking space, I guess.
So I'm assuming you can you can see this image?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you can see where at the top of the screen is the part of the Ramshead Inn. So it's right on that sharp bend. There really is no shoulder to park there. We have paper no park that for the past season, and that worked pretty well for us. And now we're looking to put permanent signs there.
Okay, I see that. Yes, I know exactly where you are. And I did see the paper signs over the season last year. So,
Yeah.
yes.
And that goes for the other locations too. We had paper signs at the other locations. We're moving those to permanent signs.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chief.
No problem.
Chief, if you could just show your other two images just for public education purposes for the future, so.
Sure, if she just turns up, yep. So just looking at this north at the top of the page, you can see the IGA parking lot here to the left. We're looking at 100 feet from this intersection back on Manwaring Road. And then at the request of EMS, they also asked that we post 130 feet in front of the EMS building. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was actually, Jim, on this one, I was asking, I thought maybe it would gotten changed, that the one red line on the south side of Manwaring be extended to have no parking until the last egress out of the White Oak Wine Garden. Like you could fit a car, do you know what I'm saying? You're pulling out a White Oak.
I understand. I guess the simplest comment back, Councilwoman, is that we've papered that last year. It worked for us. We had
Okay.
no real safety concerns. I would say that we can continue to review that. And if it does present a concern, we would remove more. I just hate to take away too much off-street parking when there's really adequate shoulders in those locations.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
And then the last one is the intersection of New York, West Neck, and Mananic. And this is varying distances based on ingress and egress of various storefronts and restaurants there. So on the screen, if you can kind of see it. This first line, we took back 350 feet to give, there really is no shoulder there. We had cars parking there. It took away any shoulders that bicyclists or pedestrians could walk on. So that is probably the largest extension. The other extensions are basically 100 foot through the intersection, depending on, like I said before, egress and ingress into those parking areas.
Okay. Any comments? Questions?
Good job, Jim. I think all three areas were very potentially dangerous, and it should help tremendously.
And back to Councilperson Ianfollo, though, I just wanted to know, we are small enough and nimble enough that if something presents itself in other locations, we can temporarily post them. We have that latitude in the town code, and then look to codify them if it presents a problem. So we are paying attention.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna close that hearing. We're gonna open the hearing on the Liberty Lawn Care LLC, 17 North Ferry Road, for a special permit. The applicant asked that it be adjourned, but we'll open the hearing. So Amber, could you read this one to us?
On the application of Liberty Lawn Care LLC, 17 North Ferry Road, to construct a commercial building to serve landscape business.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion, we adjourn because the applicant's gonna be. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna open a public hearing on the Joseph Bocci 2 Park Lane mooring application. Amber?
On the application of Joseph Bocci, 2 Park Lane, to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as 42065083 degrees north and latitude 723633 degrees west.
Jim? What do we say?
No, yeah, I've got it. So on March 6th, it was discussed at the WMAC. Bo noted that he inspected where this location was desired. He cleaned up a little thing in online moorings, and this is well suited now. And he's moving this applicant, as Amber quoted it, to an existing spot, and it was approved 5-0.
Any questions, comments on this one? Okay, we're gonna close that hearing and open the hearing on the Deborah Mintz 5 Margaret's Drive mooring application. Amber?
On the application of Deborah Mintz, 5 Margaret's Drive, to install a mooring in West Neck Bay at a location designated as latitude 420658.6 degrees north and latitude 723633 degrees west.
It's a takeover of an existing mooring, a similar sized boat, 5-0, by the WMAC approved.
Okay, any questions, comments on this application? Okay, we'll close that hearing and open the hearing on the Eddie Quinlan, 8 Quaker Path mooring application. Amber?
On the application of Eddie Quinlan, 8 Quaker Path, to install a mooring in Cockles Harbor at a location designated as latitude 4108, 86.1 degrees north and latitude 72, 32, 30, 11 degrees west.
Very little discussion. There's sort of an open area, so it was approved 5-0 by the WMAC.
Okay, any comments or questions on this one? Okay, we'll close that hearing and open the hearing on the Bob Weinstein and Eric Hensley, 28 South Midway dock application. Amber?
On the application of Bob Weinstein and Eric Hensley, 28 South Midway Road, to construct a 4-foot by 60-foot catwalk with a 3-foot by 16-foot aluminum ramp leading onto a 6-foot by 30-foot floating dock to be secured with 2 anchor pilings and install a 4-tie off piling.
Approved 5-0.
Okay.
But, and it was a pending a revision which has been made and a corrected application submitted. So the revision was tie-off pilings were too far out. So they came in, brought them into 20 feet away from the main dock. And so this is approved by the WMAC.
Okay.
Recommended to be approved.
Packaging. Good. Okay. Okay, we'll close that hearing. 5-0. And open the hearing on the Jeremy Brownie, 2 Tar Kettle Road dock application. Amber?
Jeremy Brownie, 2 Tar Kettle Road, to construct a 4-foot by 68-foot long open grate fixed pier leading to a 4-foot by 12-foot long fixed pier in a T configuration with a 4-foot by 10-foot long ramp leading to a 6-foot by 30-foot long float to be secured by 4 10-inch diameter piles.
This was a fairly long application process, but I just would like to commend John Needham or thank John Needham for being very patient with this applicant in terms of getting it all the ducks in the row that were supposed to be. And this was also approved 5-0, where all the wrinkles were ironed.
Okay, any questions, comments on this one? Okay, we're going to close that hearing. We're going to reconvene the hearing on a proposed local law entitled the Local Law to Amend Town Code Chapter 129 entitled Wetlands. The summary of the proposed law is the purpose of this local law is to address administrative inefficiencies in the processing of wetland permit applications by delegating approval authority from the town board to the planning board, upgrade the application process, ensure an internal clearing inconsistency, and elucidate the new construction 100 square foot wetlands exemption. And this is a reconvening, so it's open to the public, comments, questions. We have Kathleen DeRose.
Yeah, hi, guys. I object to this change on 2 grounds. One is that it weakens the law by removing wetlands protections. And the
I'm sorry,
second
say that
is
again?
it's-
I'm sorry, Kath, can you say that again?
Number one, I'm objecting to this change. Number one, because it weakens the law by removing some wetlands protections. And then secondly, because it is bad governance to transfer this responsibility to an unelected body. And I guess the final comment I make is that you guys did receive letters from members of the community on this, and you do not have widespread support for this change. So I'd like to hear from you about why you are making this change in the face of opposition. Thank you.
We rely on the intent and the,
Who do you want to call on next?
We're not going to act on this tonight, so we will have an
We're
opportunity.
going to discuss it at the work session.
yeah, so, yeah, depending on how things go, more than likely it'll be closed, subject to maybe a week written comment, and then we speak at next work session.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, we'll talk about it.
And Patrick?
I didn't think I would comment on this because I'm not involved in this at all, but this is the only issue that I can recall. In all the SIA meetings that I've gone to for 4 years, every single person representing every one of the homeowners associations agreed and said yes. Only time I've ever seen it happen, for what it's worth.
Said yes
Said yes
to
to
the
what?
transfer or said don't?
Not to make the change.
Not to make the change.
Because they felt like we have the authority, you have the authority to do what you need to do already, and that it shouldn't be delegated down to a non-elected body.
Thank you.
Thank Patrick.
Next is Kim Nolan.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. Following up on Pat, I'm the president of the SIA, and I don't think I need to remind the town board that this island has about 45 miles of coastline, a huge proportion of which are going right around those neighborhoods that the SIA represents. We've got 7 neighborhoods I can read off to you that contain a huge number of your tax-paying constituents. They're all pretty much against this. And so we wrote a letter dated March 17th that specifically addresses the pieces of the law that are just really unnecessary and weaken it. And I'm not going to go through the letter because I, have a limited time, and it speaks for itself. It makes the record. I'll let other people do that. But I think the town, as custodian of our coastline, should recognize that, there are public beaches, there are 3 marinas, there are, the marine trail at Cockles Harbor. There are so many parts of this island that are totally affected by the wetlands. And in a period of climate change, I think that you want to be more protective of them and not weaken that law. So I thank you on behalf of hundreds of residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Stella?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for recognizing me. 2 weeks ago, Lori Beard Raymond and I came before you to represent the thoughts of the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corp. Board. And like the SIA board, our committee and our board were unanimous in not supporting the transfer of the decision-making or the changes that are being proposed. And I won't reiterate the details, but in general, the headlines were that we thought you were removing checks and balances, that we were loosening restrictions at a time when we should actually be strengthening the restrictions. And that same night that we postponed the hearing, kept it open, I attended the planning board meeting. And the reason I did that was because one of the projects in the Heights that's coming up for a wetlands permit was on the agenda. And most of that meeting, the planning board was discussing, in the event they were given the authority to assume the decision-making around wetlands permits, how would it work? And they were talking about, what role their attorney would play. They were talking about what role an engineer would play. And this all struck me because in the legislative intent, the reason why the town board is talking about delegating this decision-making to the planning board was because the planning board was deemed to be the group that had the collective knowledge of the environment and construction practices and property design. But through that meeting, we were talking about outsourcing a good deal of this to a third party. So my question is, why would that be? Understanding that if we need to bring in an expert in terms of an environmental consultant, then why not leave it with the town board and have the town board rely on the planning board and the CAC the way they have in the past, as well as any kind of environmental consultant that we might want to bring into the picture. And I think that there'll just be less reason to have potential conflicts. And when I say conflict, I mean, I have the utmost respect for everyone on the planning board, but they work, they have day jobs. And I think a lot of their day jobs might be putting them in more of a position to have a conflict. And it may have been just happened to be a coincidence, but one of the first wetlands permits out of the chute is something that Ian's going to have to recuse himself on. So the Heights would like the decision-making to stay with the town board. And if the town board needs to bring in an expert, such as what was recommended by the planning board's attorney in the form of an environmental consultant, let that stay with the town board. And please don't, loosen any of the restrictions that have been put out there. So
Thank you, Stella.
thanks very much.
Thank you. Howard?
Yes, thank you very much. My biggest objection to the changes for the wetlands is that I feel that the wetlands is a very sensitive area, being on the Conservation Advisory Council. And it's not just Shelter Island, it's all of Long Island. And I don't think a planning board, although they're very good and I respect Ian, should be responsible to making a judgment on wetlands, since we have to make a judgment that affects both Connecticut, South Hold, Hampton Bays, and in fact, all of Long Island. It could even affect Manhattan. I know some of their crazy wetlands laws. So I don't think the approval should leave the board. It should be a political thing. I know the supervisors have meetings every once in a while on the East End, and I'm sure they discuss wetlands. And the planning board wouldn't be at a meeting unless you invite them to that. So I think it has to stay with the approval of the board as it is. And one other item, I think we should not change the permit requirement for demolition. Demolition in the wetlands can cause an awful lot of damage, and it should be carefully watched by the town or building department. That's about it.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you.
Ed Sherman?
Yeah, hey, thank you. As somebody who's put in a couple of wetlands permit applications myself on occasion, the transfer of this over to the planning board doesn't do what some people are afraid that it's going to do. It doesn't reduce the amount of oversight. What it does is it consolidates that oversight. You're still going to have the CAC reviewing applications and providing their input, and 9.5 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, when the CAC comments on an application, it ends up being a better application. So those comments and that input, rather than going to the planning board and to the town board, just going to the planning board with their expertise and their resources, it doesn't reduce the amount of oversight, but it does streamline the oversight. And I think that's a benefit to the property owners who are making these applications. And we have to remember these people are also property owners. So the couple of things of reducing the code and the protections in the code, I do agree with Howard that demolition within the wetlands area or within the regulated area can be substantial and can have negative impacts on the wetlands. I think a good idea would be to have a preliminary review. Have the building department sit down with the planning board and say, does this justify a full wetlands permit? And then take it from there, along the same lines of what the town's already doing with special permits for commercial properties. So that wouldn't be anything new, it wouldn't be a new process, and it would help alleviate some of those concerns that the adequate review and the adequate protection isn't occurring. The other reduction that I saw in the code was not requiring a short environmental assessment form right out of the gate. If it's not a type 2 action, then the planning board can always ask for one. So that's not really a reduction either. It's just making the process make a little bit more sense for what the applications have typically been and will most likely continue to be. And then I think the third reduction was the the one-time 100 square foot exemption, making it a cumulative. So somebody can put a 10 by 10 shed in, or they can put in a 6 by 4 shed and later come in and put in a small patio, a platform next to it or something to that effect. So that too is not really a reduction in protections. So I just think that some of the fear that's coming along with this may be a little bit misplaced. I have full faith in the CAC and the planning board to continue doing what they've done since the wetlands permit reviews have started back in 2001. They've done a top-notch job of looking at them, making recommendations, requiring changes, passing those on to the town board, who would ultimately vote on them. But it's still the work of the planning board and the CAC that the town board is voting on. So,
Thanks, Matt. Anybody else? Pam Demarest?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I really have heard from a lot of people on the island who are absolutely not in favor of this jurisdiction going from the town board to the planning board, and I too am against it. I see a lot of conflict of interest. I think that the importance that the town board has been elected to do such jurisdiction over the wetlands is important, and it should not go to an appointed committee. I don't believe that the planning board does have the expertise. I have said it on many meetings. I was at that meeting with Stella as well, and I was concerned that they felt like they would have to hire a consultant for certain projects. I mean, it doesn't mean every project, but that's what the short environmental assessment form is for. That's the purpose of that. So that should not come out of the code. And there was admittance there that they're not familiar with the plants and the marine biology on the wetlands. They don't have that expertise. So clearly, I don't see that as being a benefit of changing this law. And then the other thing about it is that if they have to hire this out, pay the planning board attorney as well as the planning board engineer, and then maybe have to then again pay another environmental consultant, we're looking at the cost of this. We haven't really discussed the fees going forward, but this could be close to $2,000 on any given project. That doesn't get put back into the town's coffers. Right now, the town is collecting those fees. It's going into the town. Now this is going to go to private, basically engineers and private attorneys. So I don't see how that's going to benefit the town in that regard. And the demolition absolutely should not be changed as far as this goes. I still don't see how this clarifies the 100-foot exemption part of this, which was part of the intent of these changes. And what else can I say? I really think that this is a bad idea. It needs to look further into details if we find errors in this law the way it's written. And I have seen others that should be addressed. But the intent of what's here before us makes no sense to pass, in my opinion. And I would plead to the town board to give it true consideration on what you're hearing from these associations and the representatives of these associations. It is an island, and let's not forget it, so it's sensitive. And now with the new Green Amendment in New York State law, it's something to consider with climate change and sea level rise. And that also must be considered going forward with these projects. So I'd be happy that you could keep this open for a few more comments or another week or so before you make a decision. And I appreciate anything you might have to offer up this evening to help us out to understand the purpose again. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Pam, I just want to address the fee situation. The fees are going to still go into the town coffers. The attorney and engineer are already on salary being paid. The environmental consultant that would be hired at the end of the project to make sure that the buffer was planted correctly, that gets paid directly by the applicant. So as far as the fees, that shouldn't be a concern.
But I guess my point is that right now we're paying you, Mr. Kiley, for doing the resolutions for these projects, and and no one else is really getting paid. We don't need an engineer to look these things over. And now, from what I understand, Joe Fenora is going to be writing the initial review of these projects.
No. The
Taking
planning board.
responsibilities from you. That's what the planning board said.
And the planning board has a separate engineer and a separate attorney that's already on salary.
The planning board's engineer happens to also be named Joe. That's the confusion.
No, it's not. No, it's not. From my understanding, Mr. McDonald said that,
You don't know.
in fact, Joe Fenora was going to be basically writing the denial letters first. I didn't
No,
understand
that's it. That's
that it was Joe
Pam,
Lombardo.
that's inaccurate.
I didn't,
Okay.
that was it Joe, I'm sorry, if I'm mistaken and it was Joe Lombardi, then that's fine,
Yeah,
but that,
yes,
I
yes.
understood it to be Joe Fenora.
Yeah, no.
Okay, thanks, Pam.
Okay.
Mark Ween? Mark, you're on mute.
And,
Go ahead.
I just want to reiterate, I agree with 19 out of the last 20 people who spoke. I feel the town board should consistently stay with it. I feel our wetlands, like everybody else, are very important. And I hope you take this into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Stella?
Just one quick comment on the fees. From my understanding at that planning board meeting, Beth would be doing some legal work. Joe Lombardi came back and said that it would cost potentially up to 5 hours or $800 worth of extra time to do this work. And what was not clear was if he had the environmental consulting expertise in his, in his company. So it appeared to me as someone in the audience that there was going to be additional costs and it wasn't just to be covered in the salary. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no one else. Maybe we should have Ian come up to address Kim Nolan.
Kim Nolan.
It just sounds to me like right off the bat, you're going to have a bunch of recusals and ethics board considerations. And I just don't understand why this all came about in the first place. And I don't understand with such a clear legislative intent on this law. When it was enacted 20 years ago and the town board enacted it, they clearly thought that the town board should do this. And I just don't understand why people have a different view now, especially given this rather significant response from the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience want to speak? Ian?
Hello, I'm Ian McDonald from the Planning Board. I'm hearing a lot of comments that I don't really understand how these change to the Planning Board reviewing these applications as opposed to the Town Board would actually make the environment worse off. It's basically the same process. It's just taking it away from you guys. And it's putting in the hands of people who are very familiar with the various jurisdictions that review these. What the criteria they look at. We know how to read plans. We know enough about what applicants are potentially material-wise, buffer-wise, vegetation buffer, what they're presenting. If it's the plants are on the CAC list, which we are intending to include with every single application, then we see the applicant choose those plants, put it on their landscaping plan, and we have a clear picture of what is proposed. This isn't done right now. This would be an added step we would ask for. And then, because we don't actually know what every precise plant is, the idea would be to bring an environmentalist at the end of the project to confirm that these were installed in the correct manner. That's the full intent. Joe Lombardi, he was away. He wasn't at our last meeting. He had sent out an email of what potential charges for his office would be for this. So we were starting to work on able after the first few coming back to you to understand what the actual application cost is on our end. We would this is kind of a process we've worked out, Joe Lombardi to review the application for completion. Currently, that process is done by the building department. They are now writing the letter of denial, and then the applicant submits, and they now have to go through it again to review for completion. I think it's more appropriate and less, in a way, I'm not saying that there's a conflict there, but I think it's more appropriate for the planning board to review completion in whether or not the topographic information is correct, that the wetlands delineation was done by a certified environmentalist within the 5-year period, and all the other criteria. Quite often, the applications that we get that you guys are reviewing have a lot of missing items. And all we can do is state, because we're not in control of this, we can recommend the town board to go back to the application and ask for additional information. Joe Lombardi would be doing, reviewing the completion, outlining items that are missing for us, and giving a preliminary review of zoning and wetlands, similar to what others do or what we have been doing for the town board in our reports. And then we will still, as we have done these reports in the past, send members out in teams, look at the projects, evaluate it. I know we go to every site, every project. I know the CAC goes to every project. I'm not so certain that the town board has been going, visiting these job sites with all their other workload that they have going on. And so we also have members who are versed in construction practices and knowledgeable about how to retain water on the property and keep flow down. And I think that's a benefit to be for us to be able to reiterate or more directly advise the applicant on. And then last, our attorney, who is very versed in municipal and land use law, would be writing the resolutions similar to Stephen. So in a way, we're leaving some of the duties from the building department and from the town board and the town attorney by keeping in our hands. Definitely intend to keep the CAC in the loop, and again, going to hand out their planning list with every application. We will cherish their reports and include it into our write-ups and our final resolutions as best as possible.
Thank you.
And
Go ahead.
the whole demolition thing. It's my understanding that now you might be in charge, they would have to come to you for the permit, but the follow-up is not done by the planning board. The inspection that the silt fencing was put in or whatever was required is currently being done by the building department? Or am I wrong?
What the change is not to get rid of all review of demolition. When someone wants to demolish things, they will have to still pull, on most cases, pull a building permit to do so.
Right.
The building department would then be verifying silt fence installations.
Right.
We don't go out and verify those installations anyway.
Yeah.
On any project.
Right.
So all this does is make one step easier for the applicant to do the right thing by moving stuff out of the regulated area.
Right.
Instead of if you're forced to go submit an application, you're bound to ask for all these other things to make your time and the expense of going to this process worth it. If it's just a matter of cleaning some stuff up and moving it out, it's with the building department's permitting and following, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, it seems safe. I mean, it seems like, people aren't going to willy-nilly be able to be, tossing, railroad ties into the creeks. I mean,
This is a building department review.
Yeah.
No matter what, you still need a demolition permit from the building department. You just, let's say someone has a gazebo that's falling down in the wetlands regulated area. Well, now they'd have to go through an entire wetlands process, review process, just to take that out of the regulated area. And then they'd still have to go get the demo permit, follow all of the demo permit requirements, such as silt fencing and all the requirements of the wetlands code for removing things from the wetlands. So like you have to do it by hand, you have to, so it just, you know, if you go through the whole wetlands process, you get approval to just take out this gazebo, then you still have to follow all the things that you would have to follow anyway. So it's just an added headache. So then people either don't do it correctly, or they just don't do it and they let it fall apart in the wetlands, or they ask for more because they have to go through the process anyway. It's thrown in the kitchen sink. So
In order to achieve a better understanding of what we currently do and what we're proposing to do, would we not create a schematic of, this is what we currently do, and in a different color, how it's amended?
Good idea.
That anybody could throw it up on a screen, go to a work session. We're not changing this, we are amending this, we're not changing this. I think it would be a lot clearer and increase the understanding of everybody of what we're proposing and the changes we're proposing. Then I think, and by the way, that clarity would help for us as well as town board members, because you are right. There's a lot on this plate. I've been here since 7:45 this morning. And so, I mean, this job doesn't get any easier. It's something that I think we should all have a very, very clear understanding, because a lot of people have weighed in on this topic. Thank you.
I like that suggestion, Jim.
Flow chart. She loves flow charts.
Ian, thank you. Anybody else? Lori?
I just want to remind you that in the last hearing, Reed Karen, the building inspector, made a comment about items that don't require demolition permits, that do require at this time wetlands permits. So that might be something that you want to speak to him about, because that was something that he brought up.
Yes, septic systems is one of them.
So, you know, there are certain things that the building department doesn't issue those demo permits for.
Anybody else? Marcus?
I wasn't prepared to, I was prepared for shellfish, but thanks for adjourning that.
Can you come? Okay, we'll talk later. Just who you are.
Marcus Kasich, I'm from the planning board. Just want to let people know that this idea of transferring it to the planning board came from the town board. No, you're right, you came to us asking for it. And the other thing is, you know, with demolition, I think that's too strong of a term. It should be removal. You know, they're removing something from the regulated area, bringing it more into compliance. And why, if someone wants to remove a gazebo, why do they have to go through, get a lawyer and an engineer and, you know, go through all that process? You know, that Sherman's got plenty of work.
Yeah. And also months.
And with the 100 square foot, been on the planning board for over 5 years, and I review every case. And, you know, I like that exemption 100 foot, because some people, if you don't allow them to have it, they're going to do it anyway, a little bit, you know? So if you allow a little bit of sin, it's like, you know, if I told my daughter you'd never be late for school, you know, and she will be late for, you know, she'll be, you know, and then she won't listen to me anyway, you know what I'm saying? So you give them a little bit, and then and this goes on through the ages. So if you have a little, you know, if you want a gazebo, you know, because 100 square foot of impervious surface does, you know, having it does so little detriment to the aquifer or to the bay. You know, I mean, it's so minuscule, you know, really. You know, for what, how much, you know, pleasant time, you know, a family could have with the gazebo, you know, over the years. Anything else? And, you know, we do a pretty good job at the planning board. Meg, since you're here, because you came on the planning board when I was there, and I taught you how to do things, and I told you the main thing we do is we follow the law and we protect the town board. Remember that? I was telling you that? And we do. We're very thorough. We go through everything, and we don't miss anything.
Yeah. You are
Thank you,
good.
Mark. Thank you for your service. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we're gonna close that hearing then. We're gonna
Well, no, I'll close it subject to comment for a week. And then we'll talk about it at the next,
At Tuesday's session?
it works. So close it, subject to receipt of written comment for a week.
Yeah.
And then,
once we can, they'll discuss it at the second.
yes, not next week, but
Right, okay, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we're gonna reopen the hearing, reopen the town board meeting. We'll do some resolutions. We'll start with, Peggy, you have the first one?
Hold on, I gotta find it.
Page 16, I think.
16.
Okay. Whereas a public hearing was held on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, to hear any and all persons either for or against a local law entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 126 entitled Vehicles and Traffic to add new parking restrictions for the intersections of North Ferry Road and Manwaring Road and West Neck Road and New York Avenue, and for certain areas of South Ram Island Drive. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board does hereby adopt local law number 2-2023 entitled Vehicles and Traffic, to wit, a local law amending Chapter 126 entitled Vehicles and Traffic to add new parking restrictions to the intersection of North Ferry Road and Manwaring Road and West Neck Road and New York Avenue for a certain area of South Ram Island Drive. This local law, do I have to read the whole thing?
No, just legislative amendment.
Okay.
a summary.
Just a summary.
So I'll read the summary. The rest of it can be found online or at the clerk's office. So the summary of this proposed law is that the purpose of this local law is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of those who traverse Shelter Island roads by prohibiting parking at the intersections of North Ferry Road, Manwaring Road, and West Neck Road, and New York Avenue, and certain areas of South Ram Island Drive. So moved.
Second.
Like, be it further resolved, the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish, where's that in there?
No.
Okay.
Second, all those.
This local law shall take effect upon the filing with the Secretary of State pursuant to municipal home rule.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm doing Joseph Fushi, right?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Whereas Joseph Fushi of 2 Park Lane has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in West Neck Bay, location designated as latitude 41.06520 degrees north, longitude 72.3636 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 4th day of April, 2023, for all interested persons. I got it. All interested persons be heard in favor of or in opposition. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Deborah Mintz, 5 Markets Drive, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring in West Neck Bay for the location designated as latitude 41.06586 degrees north, longitude 72.36331 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 4th day of April, 2023, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or opposition, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Eddie Quinlan, 8 Quaker Path, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to install a mooring at a location designated as latitude 41.08861 degrees north and longitude 72.08861 degrees west. And whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 4th day of April 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition, now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned installation. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Bob Weinstein and Eric Hensley, 28 South Midway Road, have petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to construct a 4 foot by 60 foot catwalk with a 3 foot by 16 foot aluminum ramp leading to a 6 foot by 30 foot floating dock. Floating dock will be secured with 2 anchor pilings, supply and install a 4 tie-off piling. And whereas revised plans were submitted on March 9th, 2023, as per the Waterways Management Advisory Council recommendations, and whereas a public hearing was duly held on the 4th day of April 2023 for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to the proposed constructions. Now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Part 617, Section 617.10 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act and Chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, notice hereby given that the town board as lead agency has determined that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment and a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. Environmental review status pursuant to Chapter 60 of the Town Code of the Town of Shelter Island, Type 2. Reasons supporting this determination. The proposed dock construction, number one, will not cause obstruction into a navigable channel or interfere with navigation. 2, will not adversely affect the public's right to use town waters or land under town waters. 3, will not adversely affect shellfishing grounds or other aquatic wildlife which may exist in the immediate area. 4, will not adversely affect the quality of the tidal water, shoreline, or beaches. 5, will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent residents. And be it further resolved, the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned construction as per specifications filed on March 9, 2023, after said applicant, pursuant to Section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, has filed with the town clerk a certificate that the owner has at least $300,000 in liability insurance on the location, operations covered by said permit, a copy of the contractor's current home improvement contractor's license, and a certificate from the contractors performing the operations covered by said permit that said contractor has an owner's/contractor's policy issued in favor of the town of Shelter Island for liability limits of at least $500,000 covering operations of the contractor pursuant to said permit. And be it further resolved that said operations shall be completed within 1 year from the date of the issuance of this permit. Said permit is subject to the recommended limitations and any requirements that may be necessary under the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Army Corps of Engineers, and any other agencies having jurisdiction. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Whereas Jeremy Brownie, 2 Tar Kettle Road, has petitioned the town of Shelter Island for permission to construct a 4-foot by 68-foot-long open grate fixed pier landing leading to a 4-foot by 12-foot-long fixed pier in a T configuration with a 4-foot by 10-foot-long ramp leading to a 6-foot by 30-foot-long float secured by 4 10-inch diameter piles. And whereas a public hearing was held on April 4th, 2023, for all interested persons to be heard in favor of or in opposition to, now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to Part 617, Section 617.10 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act and Chapter 60 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island, notice is hereby given that the town board as lead agency has determined that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment and a draft environmental impact statement will not be prepared. Environmental review status pursuant to Chapter 60 of the Town Code of the Town of Shelter Island equals Type 2. Reasons supporting this determination: the proposed dock, 1, will not cause an obstruction to navigable channels or an interference with navigation. 2, will not adversely affect the public's right to use waters, town waters, or land under town waters. 3, will not adversely affect shellfishing grounds or other aquatic wildlife which may exist in the immediate area. 4, will not adversely affect the quality of the tidal waters, shorelines, or beaches. 5, will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent residents. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized to issue a permit for the aforementioned construction as per specifications filed with the provision of no rafting on the outside of the finger after said applicant pursuant to Section 53-9 of the Code of the Town of Shelter Island has filed with the town clerk a certificate that the owner has at least $300,000 of liability insurance on the location and operations covered by said permit, a copy of the contractor's current home improvement contractor's license, and a certificate from the contractor performing the operations covered by said permit that said contractor has an owner's contractor's policy issued in favor of the town of Shelter Island for the liability limits of at least $500,000 covering operations of the contractor pursuant to said permit. And be it further resolved that said operations shall be completed within 1 year from the date of issuance of this permit. Said permit is subject to the recommended limitations of any requirements that may be necessary under the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the Army Corps of Engineers, and any other agencies having jurisdiction. So moved.
Come up rare. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Wow. That's all I can say, Meg, is wow. Meg took the speed reading course, speed reading course 101.
For a first time through, that was pretty good.
Wow.
We'll give you the big ones.
No, thank you.
You've proven to go above and beyond. Be it resolved that the 2022 general claims number 2322 through 2331 in the amount of $21,285.77, and the 2022 highway claims number 287 in the amount of $124.18, and the 2022 community preservation claim number 26 in the amount of $3,188.50 are hereby approved for payment as audited. And the supervisor and/or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval of payment of the same. So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Be resolved, 2022 general claims number 2332 through 2333 in the amount of $13,465.65 hereby approved for payment as audited. The supervisor or any town board member is hereby authorized and directed to sign the approval for payment of same. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Before we open it to the public, we have a proclamation to read. Marion Brownlee is retiring from her role with the library, so we wanted to recognize and thank her, but she's not here, so I think we're gonna invite her to come Tuesday to the work session.
Yeah, just see if that's okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll open up to the public. Anybody?
Wow.
Just wanted the opportunity to thank you for your support and know it's been a journey to get here, and we're so excited to be able to do this great work in your waters and look forward to kicking off the project.
So how do you start? Like, what's the first step?
So stuff's already in the works, but we'll talk
Baby oysters and
contracts and
baby
all
clams
that.
in the hatchery.
And then site selection, and coming back again and going through everything that we spoke about and really hitting
Right.
the ground running.
And monitoring starting
And
in
Kay,
May.
when will we get a feel for the reeds, that they work?
In May, once I get in the water and, before we started planting it last year's pilot study, I worked with Dan Williams, the science teacher.
Yeah.
He has an underwater robot camp
Oh,
he's using
cool.
with his students,
Yeah.
which I actually read about it in the inlet paper, school paper. I reached out to him, and so we had the kids try it out and be able to take videos and photographs of before planting.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that again this spring, and we'll subsequently do it, and we'll be able to track that way as well.
Wish you nothing but good luck.
Does he bring the class go?
It was, I think he did it last year. I thought about it a little late in the year. It was like the last week of school, so.
Good luck.
Fine, good luck.
The kids are checked out earlier. But yeah, so.
I really hope you keep the health of Ananta Creek in your thoughts as well.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yes. Yeah, and like we said, this is just the start of it, and knowing that you are really invested, this just opens up us to being able to do so much more.
Much more and, not come back with the same kind of asks anytime soon, don't worry, but we appreciate this because it really is what is needed to get it going and established, and then we can continue to grow from there and look forward to reporting many successes or failures if that's what happens, but we're very confident in our methodologies.
And just a reminder too, to, again, use me as a resource, like whether it's the Shellfish Advisory Board or just asking questions, like I'm here and.
Great.
You're guaranteed to get both.
Be careful with the hang
Success far outweighs the failure.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you guys.
Very much.
Thank you very much.
Julia?
Hi, it's just a quick little thing. When you were going at the blistering pace through these mooring permits at the end there, on page 18, under the Eddie Quinlan mooring, the longitude that you quoted is different than what the town clerk quoted and is different than what's in the application.
Thank you, Julia.
You're welcome.
Christina will follow up.
Okay.
She's writing it down right now.
Yeah, sometimes they're revised though during the meeting.
Yeah.
Sometimes when she reads them, she reads the original application.
Right.
Then this one
Yeah,
is
so whatever
different.
they fill out on the application is what I post in the public notice, and then the WMAC will make recommendations. And then in the resolution will be the corrected ordinance.
Yeah, but that happens often, Julia.
Thanks for the heads up, Julia, though.
But we'll double check it. Thank you.
Jib is usually much better at writing them down at meetings than I am.
Thanks, Julia. Anybody else? Okay, I make a motion, we close the meeting.
Amen, amen.
Second.
All those in